Boom. Had you told me in my 20s I would be making this very video, I would have laughed and grabbed a drink. Being sober, that's lame. Maybe you're someone who's curious what your life would look like without alcohol. It seems like the latest trend. Everyone's going sober. Or maybe you're in the same boat I was in 1,000 days ago, where the drinking frequency and volume kept creeping up year after year. You're starting to wonder if this is healthy. In this video, I want to be very clear. I am not going to judge you if you continue to drink. All right, this is not an anti-alcohol video. This is my personal experience from 1,000 days without it. I thought I would just give you a bit of my story. You can kind of see yourself in maybe where I was. In my 20s, I went backpacking and traveling around the world. Sometimes you don't have much in common with people from other cultures, but you always have in common booze. And it's a great way you can let your guard down and open up and connect with people. I also toured in a band. Alcohol is everywhere. I mean, you don't even have to pay for it. It's in your dressing room, in your green room, on your tour bus for free. And I remember being so nervous before certain shows, like we had a TV show we were playing for, and I was so nervous. And then boom, you drink alcohol and all of a sudden you feel like a rock star. You go out there and you crush it. And then later in my late 20s, I went to business and masterminds. And again, alcohol played a role. You know, people are at the bars, you're connecting, you make business relationships, and you have an overall positive experience with people. The reason I'm telling you that is I never thought I had a problem with drinking, because I saw it as a positive way to connect with people, a thing that allowed me to come out of my shell and perform at my best. And plus, everyone else is doing it, so what's the real issue? Until 2020 hit. And that's when I noticed a huge shift in my behaviors and relationship with alcohol. You know, obviously the world shut down, much like yourself. I was inside. I would work all day, 6-7 days a week. You know, with entrepreneurship, you can't turn it off. I mean, 5 o'clock comes around and you don't just get to punch out and go home. You know, you're in your office 24/7. So I noticed my mind just kept racing about what I need to do or how I'm gonna, you know, further my career, or is this all a pipe dream? And when I would drink, all that noise would shut off. It felt like I could kind of check out at 5 and be in the present moment. It felt like I could finally relax. It felt like I could separate work from home. I've downplayed it in other videos, but you know, there was a time where I was drinking at least 6 drinks every single night, 7 days a week. I was even starting to hide it from my girlfriend. Like she'd say, "Oh, how many is that?" "Just 1 glass of wine, one really big one." What really started to scare me, I started noticing that I was getting more excited as I was getting closer to 5 o'clock. If you know anything about dopamine and addictions, when you start anticipating rewards like that, that's a really big sign of addiction. Now, here's where you would expect me to say, and then one day I got in a car and crashed it and I got my license taken away, almost died, and that's why I don't drink. I didn't have one of those huge events where like my wife is like, "If you don't stop drinking, I'm gonna leave you." Because you don't have a rock bottom moment doesn't mean you don't have a problem. It means you've gotten lucky. Looking back, I'm glad I didn't just wait around for it to get so bad that I had to quit. It was simply me looking at the slippery slope of where this was going, where my behaviors were going, and saying, I don't want it to get that far gone. So right there, I decided to make a change. I gave myself a challenge: 30 days, no boozing. And after 30 days, I liked the results so much that 30 turned into 60, 90, 365. Then before you know it, here we are, 1,000 days, stone cold sober. I was thinking how we could make this fun, because there's so many benefits to going sober. There's easy, basic ones, and then there's deeper ones that I've noticed after 365 plus days. And so I want to use a meme. You ever see the iceberg meme? You know, where it starts easy and then it gets progressively weirder and deeper? That's exactly how sobriety works. This is what I noticed after 1,000 days, and if you're on this journey or you're thinking about doing it, a little bit about what you can expect at each stage. Starting with the top parts of the iceberg, you're gonna notice your sleep quality goes through the roof. You probably don't even need studies to back this up. Like, how did you feel after your last night drinking? You didn't sleep very good. How do you feel when you don't drink? You probably sleep better. I noticed this within the week. My sleep started feeling amazing. The next benefit is mental clarity. Now, this was one I was really excited for because I've tried every supplement out there to try and get that limitless focus. In the sober community, there's something called the fog. And this is like fog that lifts and you can kind of see clearly. That normally happens around 3 weeks. And I noticed after 3 weeks of being sober, in as little as 21 days, my mental sharpness went up, I don't know, probably say 20%. Next benefit is just having no anxiety. It's where you're hungover and you're anxious. And this isn't just made up. This actually is a real thing, that you have a rise in adrenaline or norepinephrine, and then you have a decrease in chemicals that make you feel good like dopamine because they're depleted from the night before. And in my 20s, I would drink on Saturday nights. I remember getting those Sunday scaries. You know that term where you're just dreading the work week because you know you have to do a whole 5 days of something before you get another weekend. That's the anxiety I'm talking about. And all of that went away. The week actually started to look very manageable when you don't have that crazy oscillation of feeling euphoric and then crashing and having the anxiety and Sunday scaries. Last tip of the iceberg benefits that I noticed is saving money. Now, honestly, this isn't one I went sober for, but it's worth mentioning. If you look it up, the average American spends $583 a year on drinking, which honestly sounds incredibly low to me. I was spending that probably a month. Have you seen a Seattle bar tab? Not drinking allowed me to make more money. And that's the real benefit, is that my productivity went through the roof. You being 25% more productive over the course of a year, 2, 3 years. That's the real money that you're not necessarily saving, but you're making. And that's the benefit I noticed for sure being sober. Let's go deeper. Level 2 of the iceberg. I started to notice these benefits around the 90-day to 1 year mark. The first one is performance increasing. I found that when I was drinking, I would operate between 120% and 60% was more of the normal baseline. In other words, you have this huge spike right here, this red line of where you're drinking and you feel like your performance is increased. You can talk to people better. You can maybe have some crazy ideas. Maybe you're more charismatic. But then you have this makeup period for 2 days, 3 days, whatever. What goes up must come down. And I think that when you eliminate those, you're left with a more consistent baseline. Things are more manageable. The next thing I noticed, most people, when you ask them, they would say, oh, I'm a social drinker. There is a difference between drinking buddies and true friends. You realize how many people that you hang around that maybe you wouldn't hang around if you were sober. You want to go really deep? There's probably people you've dated and entered relationships with where you both were buzzed and you drink around each other. And then if you get sober, you're like, do I even like this person? The sober version of them. Drinking didn't make me more social. It actually prevented me from building a social life with people I loved. All right, the next benefits. This one is on respect. In my last video, I pointed out the observation that alcohol is the only drug that if you don't do, people look at you like you have a problem. What do you mean you don't drink? Do you have a problem? And that we would never do that with any other drugs or things that are bad for us. Just a little bit of crack, come on, man. That's funny. My experience has been the opposite of that when I analyze it. That I've gotten way more respect for not drinking than I've gotten any pushback. People get it. And there's a cultural shift in the collective unconscious, a wavelength we're all on, that we understand partying has an expiration date. The conversations you'll get from people are really great and deep. You'll connect with people who also don't drink and you're instant friends that way. Or people will confide in you and be like, you know what, I've noticed it creeping up and I'm like, how did you make the decision to go sober? I've been thinking about doing that too. If you want more self-awareness, I'll link down below our 11 questions to change your life. These are my favorite journaling questions that I've done, and I would definitely do if you're gonna go 30 days sober to learn more about you. Moving deeper down the iceberg, level 3, I noticed these 9 months to a year out. One benefit I didn't see coming was how bored I got when I quit drinking. I used to say, I'm so busy, I don't have time for this. I'm running a business, I got relations, I don't have time for this. But then I stopped drinking and realized how much time I have. And that when you're not taking the time capsule of like you drink and then for 5 hours, everything's entertaining and you're stimulated, and then you wake up and you're hungover so you can't do anything. Like when you remove all that, you get a lot of time back. I was able to rediscover a lot of hobbies that I had and pick up some new ones that I fell in love with, like gardening. I never thought I'd be into gardening, but threw some seeds down and now I got a kick-ass garden. Going on long walks, rediscovering drums and my love for music. Even things like cleaning, like things I used to dread doing because it took so much effort, I actually look forward to, and I can kind of get in this flow state doing it. Listening to like a podcast or something. I love it. What I noticed is that things became more enjoyable instead of the mode I was in when I would drink, which is just getting through it. That's a terrible way to live life, is I'm just trying to get through it. But here's the deeper part of it. I realized that alcohol is an escape and it makes anything interesting and entertaining and fun. And you don't actually need hobbies if you can just drink. Like think about anything and pair it with alcohol and it's probably goofier, funnier, and more enjoyable. Like even sitting on a plane. I took a lot of flights and I would drink, I would get a double and then just like watch a movie or talk to the person next to you, and it goes by like that. It's like 3 hours gone. What's the problem? That sounds awesome. Well, this is very dangerous because what I noticed is that alcohol made me tolerate things better. And you don't actually want to tolerate things in life, because what happens is you're going to work a job that you don't like, that you're not fulfilled by, and you're going to say, well, at least I have the weekend where I can drink and all my problems go away. And then that comes. Or you're going to get in a relationship that you're not satisfied by, and you're going to drink and make up, and you're like, well, it's all better, I'm so sorry, but you don't really mean it and the problem doesn't get better. Or you're around people you don't like and you drink and now all of a sudden you're talking to them and maybe they're not so bad. Like alcohol makes you tolerate things way better, which is very dangerous. So the real mission becomes, how do you build a life you love and not one you need to escape from? On this note, discomfort is a huge lesson. Oftentimes we drink when we're uncomfortable with things. We need a drink to take the edge off. I gotta sit down for this. Here, have a drink, take the weight off of it. An old coach of mine has a great metaphor. He says that these negative feelings you have, or this discomfort that builds up in you, it's like a gauge on your dashboard when you're in your car. And what you shouldn't do if a check engine light comes up is you shouldn't take duct tape and put it over the check engine light so you don't see it. All right, it's not there, it must not exist. No, it doesn't actually fix the problem. It's still there, you just can't see it. Discomfort is where all your lessons are. Discomfort is a good warning sign. It's a check engine light on your psychological dashboard. Jung says that your biggest problems in life can't be solved, they have to be outgrown. And it is so hard to outgrow the current version of you or your problems if you're always escaping to alcohol and you're never wanting to confront what is uncomfortable, which is already merging into the depths of the iceberg. And this is like 1-2 years plus. I realized how many goals I had that were still from like the 18-year-old me. And I asked myself, do I want the 30-year-old Clark to still be running off the 18-year-old Clark's goals? And sure, some of this is natural as you age, but I think a lot of this was accelerated by having clear focus, no distractions, not being mentally checked out all the time. I was able to really reassess what actually matters. Not what the 18-year-old Clark wanted, not what the societal goals are of what you should have by this point or benchmarks, but like at the core, what do you actually want? I've noticed myself getting jealous of my old self or people who were able to moderate drinking, like that magic charisma button that they can just push and now they're the life of the party or they're super outgoing. I miss that to drink feeling. Yeah, I'm pissed. I lost that ability to control that. But it's so easy to see the positives of things and not the downside the peaks and not the valleys of it. And if you're going to compare, you need the whole context. You can't just take one isolated time where alcohol was really good. You have to take the whole package of the negatives as well as a few minor positives. The reason I don't go back is because I've made the decision to raw dog life, to go straight edge through it. And that even if it feels like you're missing something like liquid courage, it's fake courage. It's not real. It's artificial. It's from a chemical. It's from a substance. It's about going to the root cause of like, okay, I'm nervous. Why am I nervous? Not, okay, let me ignore this and suppress it down. And right about here is where I'd tell people some advice of like how to quit, but really there's only one piece of advice I can give you, and that is find the authentic drive. You have to have an authentic drive or a reason for wanting to go sober or to give it up. Otherwise, don't worry about it. Don't try. I know that sounds backwards in a video like this, but it has to come from you. You have to view it as not giving up something, but gaining something. Okay, if you view giving up alcohol as losing freedom, charisma, losing your social circle, losing relaxing, it's not gonna stick. But if you view it as, no, I'm gaining self-awareness, I'm gaining mental clarity, I'm gaining my mornings back, I'm gaining my real friends that I can connect with, that's when it starts to get really fun, and I think it'll stick around.